Welcome to the Síle Show. I'm chatting today with Glynn, founder of Glynn Coaching in Navan, and someone who leads with both embodied insight and purpose. Dan's own journey is actually part of his calling. At 24, he experienced a life-threatening collapsed lung. Though by appearance he was healthy, fit, and very disciplined, this crisis revealed something that his outward metrics just could not. The hidden tensions, the unspoken stress, and a general internal misalignment. In the aftermath, he turned both inward and outward for answers, and for sustainable and sustained healing. During this time, he explored neuroscience, psychology, and holistic practices, integrating them into his 3-pillar approach to wellness and transformation. His work isn't about superficial fixes or quick formulas. Through physical training, breathwork, movement, energy practices, and coaching, he guides people to reconnect their voice and their body, to hold presence in communication, and to live more vibrantly and truly. He speaks regularly about the interface between voice and vibration, and of our capacity to tune into the conversation between body and brain via systems like the vagus nerve, that deep highway of regulation that reminds us that we're not just minds, but embodied beings. Dan, you're so welcome.
Thanks a million. Thanks for having me, Síle.
It's great to have you here. We've so much ground to cover. Let's go right back, though. Will you introduce us to young Dan?
I grew up in a place called Wilkinstown in Meath. My mum and dad are originally from Dublin, and they moved probably when they were young enough. I think when my brother was born, he's about 3 years older than me, Shane. So they moved down. Mum's from Drimna, dad's from Coolock. So they're not Southsiders from Dalkey or anything. And I suppose they kind of moved down for a different style of life. So that was kind of where I grew up. Originally, really small part of the world, grass growing in the middle of the road. Countryman, as you can hear through my voice. But so yeah, life for me was a really great childhood, to be honest. Like, my mum and dad provided some amazing opportunities for me and my brother. I went to the local school, and yeah, like, I suppose my journey was probably very different to my brother as well. So, like, my brother's a solicitor and highly educated. And we went to school in a place called Nobber. Great name, I know. But we went to school there, and he was the first person to get the highest amount of points in the school there ever. So Shane would be highly academic, which I'm sure you won't mind me saying. And for me, I always kind of struggled through school. Like, it was never really my thing. And I love sport. It gave me such probably a release in a way that I don't only realise now, when I look back. But even through sport, I would have struggled a lot with my kind of own confidence and identity within that. And, just growing up, I just thought it was who I was and never really seen anything different really about it. But it's only probably that I've come into the work now and understanding myself and understanding, the mind-body connection, trauma, all these other areas, and how that impacts our sense of self, and how the sense of self is ultimately how we operate, live, think, feel within the world. So you might see from my life, like, people even listen to this who maybe knew me growing up, like, you'd never see that side of me. I was a laugher, as you can probably tell, a laugher, a joker, a messer. But in school, I probably use that as a medium a lot of time to kind of hide away from the other things, because, if I was more vulnerable, I'd probably feel that, well, I'm not going to be accepted or liked within the group or within the school or whatever. So I kind of always played that character, like, I'd say, oh yeah, I didn't bother, studying for that, and use it as a way to kind of shield that inner self. So it was kind of a mix, like, if I look back at my life and younger Dan now, it's been, I wouldn't change anything for the world, like, you know what I mean? And I've had such an amazing childhood, such amazing memories. And I'm actually really grateful in one way that I've had that, because it's like, I wouldn't be sitting here doing today talking about what I talk about now. It's what I believe I've been put on the world to do is speak within this. So yeah, that's kind of young Dan. Definitely a lot more hair as well. That's why you have to keep it long to keep it going in that way.
So Dan, an element of performance anxiety definitely when you were younger that you didn't
Definitely.
even recognise maybe in those younger years. It's the
Definitely not.
value of hindsight really that has helped you to understand that you were
100%.
masking up for life.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. It was, I think, you know, like, particularly for males, like you're never really vulnerable. There's a natural fear, and that natural fear comes from, well, if I'm vulnerable, what are people going to think about me? What will I look like? What will that show a comparison to other people who I think have it worked out or figured out?
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose I probably had that, you know, in society in that way, like growing up in that environment and places. It's natural and normal, I think, for young males to do that. Like the conversations that are had nowadays, it's not conversations you had. You know, I was getting there when I was growing up. I'm still quite young, I like to think anyway. So I think it was natural in the society in that way. And it's like I went to college originally in Tralee. I studied sports science, but a lot of that module was so much more to it. And what really blew my mind was there's an amazing lecturer I had. His name is Joe O'Connor. And the first day we had him, he said two things. The first thing he said was, everyone who's sitting in this room, most of you are here because you want to do PE teaching, which is why I was there. Because I was like, if I do this, I'll go the long route, I'll get a nice cushy job, so I'll get the summers off, I'll make a bit of money, and I won't be homeless living on the street. So I was like, great, this will figure it all out. And the first thing he said, most of you won't be doing that. Second thing is, most of you have an idea on what you think performance actually is, but it's nothing to do with that. And what he put on the board was the biopsychosocial model, which talks about the biological, the psychological, and the social, and how that all interlinks in ultimately in terms of our performance. And when this came up, it was like a whole new world opened up to me, I said. And just since then, I just immersed myself, I suppose, in all that work. Like,
You know, beginning to understand that we have basic emotional needs that need to be met in balance if we're to live happy, healthy, wholesome lives. It's fantastic whenever we meet that in our lives. But you're so right, Dan. You are so young. And we do talk differently nowadays to how we would have spoken when I was young, for example.
Definitely.
Nonetheless, you're still very wise for one so young. I know I had the pleasure of meeting you on Tuesday last in your gym in Navan, and I was struck by the use of the word spiritual twice in our very brief conversation. And it intrigued me and enthralled me, I have to say, that somebody so young can have that sense of the spirituality that goes with living a very whole life. But you were explaining that you had a sort of a threshold moment in your life when you were in your 20s.
Yeah.
And a medical emergency probably taught you a lot. There was a bit of a collision before the portal to learning.
Yeah, I think it's for a lot of us, you know, we probably have an idea of what life is, of who we are. And I suppose the big thing I've really realized is we talk about change, and we talk about change, we talk about connection, we talk about that connection to self. And to me, the only way to figure that out is to go spiritual. It's to go deeper. It's to go to beyond something else. But in order to really get to that place, I think what I've really realized, it takes a massive emotion of something to override the programs that you already have built inside you. And what I really mean by that is, like, 95% of our life is lived off subconscious programs. And this is automatic in how we live, think, and feel. And unless we grew up in an environment where we're very spiritually connected, we often disconnect from that, and we judge it, or we think that's not for me, they're wishy-washy, they're all cracked. And that's how I lived a lot of my life. And it was only at 23 years old, one of my best friends, Colin, was pretty much like my brother. We only got married about 7 weeks ago, and his mum and dad were sitting at our top tables. That's how close he would have been to me. But he died on Christmas Eve, sudden adult death syndrome.
So sorry.
And thanks a million. And that was Like I lost lots of people before that, but this was I think when it's a friend, it's different. You know, it's your family are there to support you, and thankfully, Granny at the time was there to support me. But it's different when it's a friend because you know they have their own. That friend has their own family. And you're kind of there, but you're not there. And then your family are kind of there, but they're not there either. So it's a really, like any grief, it's a really lonely place to be in. And for me, like we spoke about earlier, as a male, I wouldn't deal with my emotions. You know, I wouldn't sit into it for the fear ultimately of what will come up and what will happen. So my way of dealing with that moment was bury myself into more work, get busier, get more distracted, um, and portray really this external image that I had it all figured out and I was, you know, successful, quote unquote. And it was only until a Saturday morning I woke up. At the time, I had my gym as well. Was delivering a standard Saturday morning class, and then 20 minutes into class, I'm collapsing onto the floor, and my dad is rushing me into A&E into hospital, and it was a massive darting pain into my heart. I was convinced it was a heart attack, and I was rushed in, hooked up onto oxygen, and figured out it was a collapsed lung. And thankfully, the doctor saved my life that day. But when I got out of there, I spent a couple of weeks in there. And when I got out, we couldn't test, you know, because I was 23. I was running, I was eating healthy. My business was health and fitness, like. So we done tons of tests, and ultimately the conclusion came to sometimes these things just happen. But in that moment, I knew that there was something, had to be more to this. Like, there has to be something more. And that's when this whole world opened up into me when you talk about that spiritual sense. Because the medical world treated my physical body, but they never treated my soul. And my soul was the one that was actually making me sick. Because my soul was the one that was still angry, was still fearful, was still upset. And ultimately, my soul was like that because I was actually afraid to let love back in. I held this barrier that, you know, that's sometimes why we're afraid to be vulnerable, because if I'm vulnerable and if I'm exposed and I open myself so much, what will happen to me? Mm-hmm. And that's where a lot of anxiety and all these other symptoms come from. They're symptoms of the soul. And it was only when I met a Chinese medicine practitioner, I went into him and he said, "What's happened to you?" I said, "I have a collapsed lung." He said, "Okay, you must have lost someone in the last year." He's never met me, doesn't know anything about me. I said, "How the hell did you know that?" He said, "Because the main part of trauma and grief is held in the heart and the lungs. That's why you got a collapsed lung." And, you know, sometimes when you talk about spiritual or soul, I think society deny that because we haven't any clear, concrete evidence or proof. And we live in a world now where we need Fitbits, we need calorie counting apps, we need heart rate monitors, we need bank accounts. We've so much access to things that we think, you know, gives us this sense of constant control and constant knowing. And it's in the unknowing where the soul actually is, because ultimately we don't know. Like, you know, we can never really know. Even when you talk about soul or spirituality or religion, ultimately we don't really know. Like, but it is a knowing. And I think that's where, for me, speaking from my own journey, that's where I probably disconnected from it so long. But when you hear things in that moment and when it connects with you, it's that moment where, like, you'll never look at anything in the same way again.
A word of heartfelt thanks. In just a few weeks since we launched the Síle show, over 250,000 people have tuned in to listen to the show. This is the engagement that we aspired to from the get-go, and we are beyond grateful to be riding this amazing wave of support and interest in our content. To our guests, thank you so much for showing up, for putting your trust in us, and for sharing your truth so candidly. And to you, our cherished listeners, thank you for coming back, for sharing, and for letting this space matter. Now here's the ask. We need to turn that love into subscribers so that we can keep bringing you these life-changing stories. To show our appreciation, we're giving something back. Prizes for Subscribers is an initiative to encourage and celebrate engagement and interaction with The Síle Show. Subscribe to our YouTube and or Spotify channels. Follow The Síle Show on any or all platforms, and we will choose a weekly winner across all access points. Winners will receive a fabulous gift bag of stunning beauty goodies from our super sponsor, Elave. Obviously, the more involvement you have with all the channels and platforms, the greater your chance of being the lucky winner. All we ask when you receive the gift is to post a story or a reel, tag us, and tell the world why you love the show and how you're using the products. The Síle Show is proudly sponsored by Elave Skincare. Pure, powerful, Irish made. In the interim, you can use the code SHILE10, that's SILE10, for 10% off all orders online. Follow, subscribe, and share the vibe. It's that sense of the special relationship versus the holy relationship with everything in life. So if we can imagine that when we come into the world, we're breaking away from the oneness from whence we hail, whoever is the God of your understanding, the oneness from whence we hail. And that all of our lives, we're hankering to get back to that oneness. So we build up these special relationships with people and things. I will feel better when I do this, or if I get your attention because I do this, I will feel that sense of wholeness again. So we're all the time trying to come home to ourselves, really. And in that space, then we get the opportunity to believe in the bigger truth.
Yeah.
When something as tragic as that happens in your life and you go so far down, to stay there we've a survival instinct. To stay there is so scary. And so you do grapple your way back up, and spirit calls you, brings you back into alignment. So you had that experience. You had your lovely partner in your life at that time, isn't that right?
We literally, it's funny. I'm kind of going off tangent, but I think it's actually a good story that the night we basically met, that particular friend who I lost, he was in a job at a time that he hated, was miserable, and he wanted to go on a night out, and I'm not a big night out person. I do like a good couple of pints. I'm not that boring from time to time. But he wanted to go out, and I said, no interest, not a chance. He said, please, come on, please. I'm miserable in this job, come on.
Yeah.
I said, right, fine. So no interest, and that was the night I met Grania. So,
imagine.
So yeah, we only were probably met about 6 weeks at this stage, which was a huge thing for Grania even to be in. We didn't even know each other really.
And did you help each other through?
You're forced to. I think you're forced in that moment. There's no other way. And you're kind of forced to say, kind of when you're in the shit with, whether it's a team in work or a high performance team or a relationship, when you're in the shit, you're forced to say in that moment, are we going to fucking work on this, or just fucking leave it and let it go? And I think that's, in a way, it's what it forces us to have such a strong connection, and straight away, because you have to be vulnerable. There's not even have to be, you're just vulnerable. It's there in front of you. So it forces us in a way.
It does, because we have in a relationship, we have the me, the you, and the we. There's the Venn diagram. And if you overwork the me or the you or the we, there's no balance. There's probably not sustainable.
Completely.
And we're repurposing the attachment styles in our teens and our 20s and forever that we had in our formative years until we do the work. So you would have said that you were feeling vulnerable and you had performance anxiety and perhaps a sense of imposter syndrome even as a youngster, without the language to understand it. And that attachment style would have been the same attachment style that you used when you made friends with your lovely pal who has transitioned with Grania, and will forevermore. That'll be your baseline until you do the work.
Completely.
But having spoken to you on Tuesday, I realised that your whole life is the unfolding of your work, and not just for yourself now, but through your business for the people that you help. So you have a 3-pillar component, or
completely.
Is it like your mantra, your brand approach?
I think it's just my message. I think I'm very, it might be the wrong word, but I'm fortunate, I think, in a way that like one of my key lines I always use is that every mess has a message. Within every mess in life, there is some message within there. If you can surrender, if you can let go, if you can stop being stuck in the beliefs and the things you're so consumed and attached to, that there is some message in every single mess. If you ask anyone in life who is living probably in contentment or alignment or whatever it is at all, probably any person you will meet will never have gone through something, really deep and challenging. So I think my head's gone on a tangent here. I think it's forced me to, in a way that the work that I do is just a message that I live. And I think I don't really try to create something that I'm not like. I think that's why my message just evolves as I evolve.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beautiful thing, because, we're all human beings. And as much as we're very different, we're very similar and same at the same times. And we all go through the same challenges. We all go through the same obstacles. And anyone who has changed my life has probably changed it through their own energy and their own stories, because I've connected with that.
Yeah.
And I've went through so many different workshops and podcasts, and here we are again. Different things in life that you just have a sense that I don't think that's real.
Yeah.
I just don't fully connect with that.
Yeah.
And I think for me, a lot of the work I try to do is, how can I understand myself, my own challenges, my own struggles, and how can I look at that every single day and look at this as an opportunity to know myself, to help others. And I think that's pretty much all I do. And it just leads me to meeting great people like yourself and so many others that help me to maybe put language and wording around what my understanding is. And as you said, imposter syndrome, like, oh, now that makes sense. I think that's really the work that I do, and just things happen and come from it. Some of it's mad, some of it's mental.
It's fabulous. You're such a manifester. You're fantastic. I was chatting with somebody about you after meeting you the other day, and I was really intrigued and really engaged, so adaptively and pleasantly engaged by somebody so young. And if I dare to say male, because it's in my experience of it, it's not so typically prevalent in the world, in my world anyway, in the people that I've met. I don't meet young men who are so aligned with purpose. Meaning, yes. So people nowadays, I'm delighted to see what I think. I could be wrong. I might be looking at the world through my pink tinted glasses. But I think that a lot of youngsters are not drinking to excess anymore. They're not partying to excess. I think, and I hope I'm right, that there's a new benchmark, there's a new wave, a new trend, and I think it's a wonderful one, of looking after body, mind and soul. I notice youngsters going on spa breaks. Now they might be having the cocktail in, in all of the photo shoots. The photo drop is, I know that. I'm not even sure if some of that is even just for show, though. I think people are very aware of their mental health nowadays, and the fact that their mental, physical and spiritual health are all one. So I'm delighted to see that. I think that's probably a trend and a space that we're in. But when I met you and I chatted with you, I had the pleasure of experiencing your gym and met some of your staff, and the energy is phenomenal. I could completely see how what you're doing works, because, to be honest, it felt very simple. Paring it back to basics. I heard you saying to somebody that came, that was a lovely chat. You'd had a chat with somebody when I arrived. Lovely chat. See you next week for a chat. Simple as that. People need to talk. They need to be heard.
Completely.
And, one of the power tools there is asking the right questions.
100%.
And sitting and listening and being able to respond to what the person says, not with something planned that you were going to say anyway, rather really engaging. And in my opinion, that's probably why your business does so very well. And you could feel the energy in the space. It was phenomenal. But you explained you work with everybody from the elite athletes to Joe Soap walking in off the street. A lovely example you said was the mammy who feels that she's just not the best mammy. She's not pulling out her A game, and she always thought she'd be an amazing mammy. What's going wrong? So how do you marry the very big difference between somebody who isn't public facing and somebody who absolutely is, and they need to know how to use their voice and, to coin your own phrase, in the moments that matter.
Yeah. I think, it's funny because when I tell people the work that I do, like, could be in Croke Park, and then the following morning I could be with a mum, for example. They say, geez, that's very different. Like, you must be a jack of all trades. I probably agree with that to some extent, definitely. But the same underlying message is actually behind it all. Like, when I sat down with athletes, a lot of the time when I sit down with them, they think it's, I'm going to talk about performance states and getting to your, managing performance anxiety and all these different things, which is definitely important and is conversations we do have. However, everything stems from something. There's a deeper root to everything that we do. And I think that's why the message is actually the same if you're a mum or if you're an athlete, because the basic human need is the need to be loved and the need to know that you are already actually loved. I think that's the basic need of what we need as a human being. And I think a lot of the time, we move that away for the fear of not being enough and not doing enough.
Mm-hmm.
And because we have that fear of not being enough and not doing enough, we often create an image and a story in our head that doesn't match with reality of who we actually are and the type of person we actually are. And particularly if you're someone listening to this podcast, you're someone who's obviously looking to understand yourself, trying to live a good life and trying to do good in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You're not someone who's fucking sitting bombing a country right now at the moment. It's a very different place. And I think when we start to really look at ourselves from a more loving place, a lot of these symptoms that we find, whether it's performance anxiety, whether it's these other different things, when we start to just lean into that acceptance of who I am, and not just accepting, but loving who I am and saying that good is good enough, a lot of these other things start to fade away. And often if it's a mum and she's thinking, I'm not a good enough mum, if she spent a different environment with kids who had a probably completely different upbringing, them kids would probably say she's the best mum in the entire world.
Absolutely.
But that mum won't allow herself to see that at times. And sometimes, if with mums, I'm no expert on it. Obviously, I'm not a woman, nor am I a mum. But from even like my own mums and different ones I would have worked with, like, the ultimate thing a mum wants is just the best for their child. But sometimes the challenge with that also is it comes from a place of fear. It comes from a place of, I didn't have this in my life. I didn't experience this in my life, and this is how I lived my life. So I'm going to do everything possible to ensure that you don't have that. And the problem is when it comes from that place of fear rather than love, is there's a pressure and expectation that if I don't do this, if I don't live up to this, and this happens to my child, I'm not good enough and I didn't do a good enough job.
Yeah.
Whereas love is the ability to say, I'm not perfect. I haven't got it all figured out. But I'm willing to learn, I'm willing to understand. And if I can just do the best I can with the time, the energy, and the resources I have in that moment, good is good enough.
I love that. And as a mum, I can say that good enough is a great place to get to in your own interpretation of the work that you're doing. I always, my boys are grown up. I have 2 gorgeous boys, they're grown up. And I always say to them that to please remember, it's a little piece of my heart out there in the world, walking around all by itself. And it's kind of like I'm the mothership and they're satellite to the mothership. And sometimes they're orbiting and sometimes but they're never off the radar. I can always check. And it's really important to be able to get your hands out of the clay and let your gorgeous children live their journey and just always know that they can come back. I think the greatest gift, I love what you said about knowing that you're loved, but knowing that you're loved anyway. Not because of what you're doing, but just because you're being. So the human being versus the human doing.
And particularly with athletes, that's actually the biggest thing. like I was only working with a team there last week, and it's a particular GA team, and going into a GA men's change room will teach you a lot about life. In what type of ways? That's for another conversation. But in with that team the other week, they're coming up to having a final, and managers contact me or athletes come and want to work with me, and they think, right, I just need to manage pressure. I just need to know the right breathing techniques. I just need to, focus and lock in and get everything sorted and boom, 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 boom. And even when you're talking about that, even when you say that out loud, you can already feel yourself under pressure. You can actually already feel the sense. And like, I think we've created a world of that. Like, that's when we talk about mindset and mental performance, we talk about, be locked in, zoned in the zone, boom, boom, which there's an element of that is truth. And with them tools I mentioned there, whether it's breathing or all these things, that's really important. But the most important pillar of that, if we look at all these things, to me, it's like a house. Them type of things are kind of like the light bulbs, and it's the plugs, and it's all them really important things. But when we strip that house back, the most important part of the house is what? The foundation. And if we look at that foundation, where is this foundation coming from? So with that GA team I was with the other week, the manager wanted me to go in and talk about, performance and boom, boom, locked in. And so I just talked to them pretty much for about an hour of how if they lose this final, it's not going to make any difference in their life. And 1 minute in, the manager at the back room was looking at me thinking, what the hell did we just do bringing in this lad? Can we get him out of here quick? You're terrified, because the manager's whole belief is these need to focus. It's really important. This really matters, which it is important. But when we build something up that it's everything to us, everything matters, we lose the sense of what's actually important in our life and what really matters. And when we build that up so much, like that GA team had, they were already under pressure before they even arrived at the pitch. They already had anxiety before they arrived at the pitch. They're already manifesting, creating that. So I just talked to them for 45 minutes saying, if you lose the game, you're still going to go home to the same home, sleep in the same bed, talk to the same person, wake up the next morning, drink the same tea, go to the same coffee shop. Not much in your life is actually going to change whether you win this cup or not. So how about you just go out and just enjoy it for what it is? And I think, that's that big piece there, is that regardless of what happens, knowing that you're loved and knowing that the people in your life who love you the most, whether you win or whether you do well in the exam or whether you get the promotion or whether, and that stuff actually really matters. When we strip that back, what really matters is, are you healthy? Are you well? And are you here?
Yeah, it's really important. And that's the big picture piece, Dan. And it is very hard, I suppose, when you're at halftime in a really important game to get the big picture. And if somebody is driving through the need to win, their vibrational offering is below 200. It's a nerve-wracking sense and a nerve-wracking state of body that you're in. So it's very hard to go out and play your best game. So apart from anything else, what I'm hearing you did in that moment was you diffused that emotional arousal, just to give the people to, and I love your analogy of the house. And I'm thinking, even to pick up the analogy of the house, we have an alarm system that we have to have, absolutely have to have, because if we're going to leave the house, we need to know perimeter won't be broken or we'll know about it. But if our alarm system is going off every time we burn toast, the fire alarm is going off every time we burn toast, over a period of time, we'll ignore the alarm. Neighbours will get fed up listening to the alarm. And likewise, we may not pay attention to the real stuff. So you gave the players in that moment an opportunity just to get perspective, that helicopter view.
Yeah.
I think it's so important, because we have neuroception happening all the time without any perception. We're taking in, for example, that manager who was doing his best, and fair play, hats off to him. He was doing, with the wisdom and knowledge he has, the very best thing he could do for the team.
Completely.
And that is, the call to action.
Yeah.
However, in the moment, you might have lost the locker room because you could then have people in a state of such emotional arousal that they can't put one foot in front of the other. Yeah. And, you can't think straight. When you're in your limbic system, you can't, never mind coordinate which foot, which hand, who to pass to, etc. So I think you did an amazing thing for them. And it is a bit of a risk because it's not perhaps what they have you on the payroll for, at a glance.
Definitely not. But and that's the challenge for me sometimes, is that, kind of like you said earlier on, a lot of the work that I do, it comes from a place where I don't really know at times. I think the best work I do is when I do the things that feel uncomfortable, but I have to trust they're right. And a good friend of mine, Jerry, told me this before about, I think it was John Lennon. And John Lennon, most incredible songwriter in the world, phenomenal what he's produced and done. And there was a time, I think someone was talking to John Lennon and said to him, "You don't write music like you used to, John, like before." And he said, "Yeah, because my life changed and I can't hear it anymore." And to me, that when I heard that, it just connected to me so much that, we talked about spirit there earlier. Spirit is that deeper innate thing where it's connected to something that you just have to trust and go with. And sometimes when I'm doing work or anything that I do, it's about, can I get really still and can I just start to hear and connect in there? And can I just trust that whatever's coming up, as uncomfortable as it may be, as much as the opposite as it may seem, can I trust that is always right? And in moments in my life when I haven't followed that, it's led me down to things that I probably didn't want or need, and ultimately not fulfilled. At times in my life when I have followed that, it's number one, it's always terrified me, because usually it's something that, is going to bring me outside of my comfort zone, is going to expose me. I'm going to have to be vulnerable. I'm going to have a chance for people to judge me. But when I also follow it and back myself within that, I don't think it's ever let me down. It's always, and I think what that ultimate innate deep thing, it's your intuition, it's that connection, it's connection to self. But you can't hear that when you're not connected to yourself, when you're not grounded, when you're not in that space. And whether it's performance in a field or performance in life, ultimately it always comes from that place. And I think sometimes the greatest managers in the world or people in the world, they're them people where they can punch you in the face and give you a massive hug at the same time and you still love them. Because they've that ability to connect with, what does this actually need here in this moment? And they do it from that place of love, not fear. And it always just grows from there.
It's like a raw truth. And you're right, the intuition is like a quiet conversation with God, whoever, again, is the God of one's own understanding. But it's just that inner knowing. And it's a great moment in your life when you can go into that and surrender to that, because then you can hand over the other things, the extrinsic things. The intrinsic things are always telling us. We spoke a few weeks ago here on the Síle show about psychodermatology and the skin being a storyteller, because we have microbiome on our skin and it is a window to our soul. It's telling us what's going on the inside. And equally, when you're in those moments that matter, there will always be a voice inside, but you have to quiet the chaos on the outside to hear the intuition, the tuition on the inside.
Completely. And that's hard.
When people are so practiced, as you say, it's hard to go on the road less travelled. You will invariably go where you always went, do what you always did, but then you're always going to get what you always got, and sure, it's not pleasing you, or you wouldn't be unwell, unhealthy, sad, lonely, maybe dating the same person over and over again, just with a different name. We have to do things differently, come out of our comfort zone, as you say, and you're there to help people doing that. So what are the various iterations of your business world? You have your gym in Navan.
So the gym in Navan, that's where we bring kind of everyday people in towards that message. It's built on a philosophy of mind, body, spirit. And it's funny because people come into us and they say, "I just want to get fit," and then they realize, "Oh God, it's nothing to do with fitness at all." fitness is usually the symptom of something else. So that's one part of the business. We have an amazing team in there. And I suppose the other kind of passion project of really mine is the kind of sport and performance side of it. And I'm really working with teams, mainly GA teams is the main thing. I love football. It gives me such a massive thing. And it's funny because I didn't like football for 7 years. I actually had no interest in it at all. Played football growing up all the time. But when I went to college, I lost the love for it. I never got connected back into it. And I had no interest in it at all.
I wonder, was it a perfectionist thing I knew that you hadn't worked on at that stage, Dan? Is it because...
Do you know, the big thing, it is exactly that. And this is why I've got so much into this work and why I love it now as well, because my kind of journey, like I was saying, everything I do is just figure out myself. Hopefully I've got something right and it'll work itself out. And I meet people like you who are actually far more educated with the terminology and the systems around it, and they say, oh, that makes sense now. But like my first part of the journey was with the gym people, because that was my journey. It was figuring that out, and it was understanding, well, I trained and exercised, but was I doing that from the right place? No, I wasn't. I was doing it because I didn't love myself, and I had to build an external image, because if I do that, I'm loved and I'm accepted, and all the other stuff of what looked like success, working hard, pushing yourself, really good shape, always watching your nutrition, was just trying to find something that was never going to bring me that. So I kind of figured out that journey, and this other part of the journey, which is why I've gotten into this work over the last few years, was when I started to realize my whole time playing football was playing with absolute fear most of the time.
Yeah.
And I'd never understand it, because when I played football, anyone who's from my club might say differently, but when I was younger, there'd be some games where I'd perform so well. I'd just be on it, and I'd play phenomenal, and I could go out the next day and be complete opposite. And I could never understand why this happened to me. And same again with my brother. He's a phenomenal footballer. I played with Meath for a couple of years. He's captain their own club. He's won titles at different levels. He's captain from minor to under 21 to senior.
He is some boy.
He's some boy. So no wonder
I was just going to say, throttle him. He is not the sibling you want.
Exactly.
No wonder you're a good therapist now. You needed one in your own pocket.
He gave that to me anyway. But, and then we played obviously in the same club as well. So, there never was an expectation of Dan, he needs to play as well. But I had that story built up because of where the place was coming from. But that's why I got so passionate into this work, because I realized, oh my God, if I had have known, that why I play well on some days is because I play with freedom. I play with no sense of fear, no sense of what might happen, no sense, because I'd be terrified. I'd get the ball and just pass it straight away, get rid of it, or the ball would be coming up the field and say, "Jeez, please don't come into this corner." Terrified of it, because I was afraid of doing something wrong. And if I did something wrong, it would show that I'm not good enough. But then on the other days when I played so well, I could never understand it. I just thought, oh, these things just happen, you can't control it. But it wasn't until I actually went into this work of sports psychology and understand that, oh my God, I said, my journey through this gym and everything I did kind of that part of my life. Earlier on, this is actually what I've been doing here in sport as well. And that's why I'm so passionate about this idea of moments that matter, because how we do anything is how we do everything. Everything is connected. And how we show up in work, how we show up in home, how we show up in sport, how we show up to the person in the coffee shop, how we show up to everything is an expression of who we actually really are. And that's why I'm so passionate about this work as well, because I think we overcomplicate the message so much, so much, and it's so simple.
And it's that lovely concept of doing everything from a place of excellence to make the difference between that and perfectionism. Perfectionism destroys excellence. You can't perform to your very best if you're trying to overachieve, or if you're trying to do it, trying too hard. But excellence is an inside out. It's an effort-led state of mind and body. And if you can just decide, I'm going to play my best game today. This is going to be the best game I ever played. Even do the gratitude practice in the morning before you lift your head off the pillow. This is going to be the best day. I am going to play the best game. I'm going to be the best in my work today. I'm going to get the best grade I ever got. I'm going to have the nicest conversations. Setting yourself up for that success is really the only preparation you need. The rest then is quite organic.
It just falls into place. And there's a line that I would use with a lot of teams is we focus on process versus outcome. So a process means is what are the things that I can control? So what I can control is my work rate, my reaction to adversity, how much I build up my teammates. All them things I can control. Things like outcome I can't control. So that's like the opposition, the fans, the referee, the score line. And in a sporting context, that makes a lot of sense. And when we're process driven, as you said, we're more in that state. We're more balanced. We're more in the moment. We're more in that flow state, as they say in sports psychology. But if we take that context and apply that to life, it's actually the exact same. Can I show up today and work and just focus on the process? The process, well, I need to get this over the line. Okay, don't worry about getting over the line. Oh, what if I don't get over the line? I'm going to lose my job. And I'm going, fucking relax. Everything's going to work itself out. What's the process that's actually going to enable that to happen? I want to be a good mum because I want my kids to love me and to know that I was a good mum. Okay, forget about that. Let that go. That doesn't matter anymore. What's the process that's going to allow you to be in that state? And particularly for a lot of people outside the sporting context, what we want often doesn't match what we do. So we say, I want to be a good mum. I want to be a good dad. I want to be a good leader. I want to be an open person, to be approachable in work. And then if we look at, right, what are you doing to bring that more into your life? Oh, I'm working longer hours. I'm not exercising. I'm eating shit food. I'm giving out to myself all the time. So when we're disconnected from the process and outcome, that's where we stay stuck. And it's another line I use is your attention matching your intention? Because your intention might be this, but where's your attention gone? And that's the hard part, is pulling ourselves back to that. And with athletes, it's about letting go of the ref's decision, letting go of the outcome. It's getting back to that process, focusing on the moment. And then with an everyday person is when life throws you constant challenges and adversity, and someone says something to you or it doesn't go your way, or you're stuck in traffic and it's not moving. How can you just stay in the process?
And that lovely parasympathetic nervous system that we have built in for those moments, as you said, the intention is on the out breath. Because if you can set the intention on the out breath, you're not going to get your best intention on your in breath. On your out breath, that longer, slower exhale, engaging the parasympathetic nervous system, set the intention there, just set it down so gently. Then on your inhale, put the attention on it, because where attention goes, energy flows. And you're in that vicinity then that you need to be, that electromagnetic vicinity, which is clearly where you are, because you're quite the manifester. We had a great chat the other day about your fabulous house by the sea, your gorgeous wife, of whom you're so proud, your lovely life that you're kickstarting now. And you're bringing this energy to the people that come and work with you, and you're giving people that sense of hope, that optimism. And it's not toxic positivity. It's so real. And in my opinion, my humble opinion, it's so real because it's so relatable. You're pairing, it's simple. You're keeping it simple. You know, I work with corporates as well, and my idea is to bring love into the boardroom, and not an easy thing. You know, not an easy thing at a glance. But behind it all, very easy. It's actually when you're there for just a few minutes and you breathe together, which people might resist in the beginning. You know, elbows up. I said this to you, oh God, here we go. It never takes long. Never takes long to just find everybody. We meet each other where we're at anyway. And when you breathe, come back to breath. You bring it back to that simple place. And then even in the love in the boardroom space, you can manifest. We can manifest then the desired outcome, which would be to chat about why are operations not where we need them to be? Why is it that we don't understand finance? Explain it to us and then we will. So everybody understanding what everybody else's role is, just insofar as it pertains to them, because we don't need to do somebody else's job, but we might need to understand who else is there and why, so that we can just make space for each other and then be the collective Hawaiian team. And the same for you in the teams that you coach and the individuals that come into your business. And if you now, there'll be so many people listening to this wanting to connect with you and get in and do some training with you. If you were to speak to younger Dan with the wisdom and knowledge you have now, or to somebody watching this, if you could get into the mind of somebody watching this, deciding, God, maybe that's the route I should go. Do you think that training and being given guardrails by somebody else and being given help with this is worthwhile? Or should people say, well, I'm not going to pay my money for that, I'll just do it myself, or I can do it myself?
From which context?
So from the point of view that people, this is a fabulous business. It's a fantastic business model. Works really well for you. You're a manifester extraordinaire, Mr. Mindset. You're absolutely fabulous. How can people watching this convince themselves that they need to carve out space and time out of their day to go and engage somebody like you, or as a team, that they need to get you in to talk to the guys in the locker room? What have you got to offer? What are you bringing to the space that's going to lure us in that we can't do for ourselves, Dan?
I think you've answered in that last question. That last bit of the question is, we can't do these things ourselves. I can't do it myself. I don't do it myself. I'm not on my own, because we operate in groups and tribes, and a lot of how we live, think, and feel is down to our environment, because our environment dictates our future. And when we're not in the right environments, with the right, not having the right conversations, not talking about the right things, that becomes part of us. And if most of your time and energy is spent in places that is given out about things, talking about how shit the world is, not doing anything about it, and coming from this victim place where life is just happening to me and I have nothing to do with how I'm creating and showing up within that, well, of course your life is going to continue to go in that way. And as we talked about earlier, insanity is repeating the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. But in order to make that step and that change, it is terrifying.
Yeah.
Terrifying, because it's unknown. And it's like, if I step into this, I am so exposed. And when I'm exposed, what is actually going to come out of me? It's like when you squeeze an orange. If you squeeze that, you know orange juice is going to come out of that. But when we squeeze you, what comes out of you? And that's what terrifies us, because we're forced to meet them parts of ourselves that we're denying, suppressing, distracting, and that we don't want to meet.
Yeah.
And that's often when people come, well, it's not me. I don't care if it's me, if it's anyone else, because the reason why I'm here is to help people in the world. And I definitely wouldn't be doing that on my own. I can barely help myself half the time. But when you're trying to get into this work, it's scary and it's unknown. But that's where, like I spoke about earlier, it takes a massive emotion for you to change your unconscious programs. And it's like an override system where it just overrides everything. And we need to inject that. And that's why we talked about manifestation. We kind of mentioned that a couple of times there, is that using things like visualization is so powerful, because it allows you to create an emotion within your mind, within your spirit, within your body that's fully connected, that your mind doesn't know the difference between this is reality happening right now and this is just an imagination I have in mind. Your body cannot tell the same difference. And there's even lots of research nowadays that shows healing through injuries by people visualizing and just seeing themselves sprinting, seeing themselves running, seeing themselves jumping, and their injury rate goes way down.
Yeah.
Because they're creating the emotions of what that's like. A lot of what I've learned is through Joe Dispenza. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. Phenomenal. But he talks about living in the emotional state right now before it even happens.
For sure.
So when it comes, as you said there, if you had to say that one thing to someone else is if it feels uncomfortable and if it kind of scares you, but you know deep within your heart it's the right thing to do, just go for it.
Yeah.
And figure it out after.
And I think that's where you come in, Dan. Enter Dan now at this point, because you've experienced hardship and adversity, not just once, and not as much as others, by the way, either. We know that. We talked about this the other night. But, you have your experience of adversity, and it was quite enough for you to realise, well, I am not going down that far again.
Yeah.
I don't have that kind of vibrational offering to give with a comeback. Some people do. Some people live, in a very low frequency all of their lives. Their happy is different to your happy. Their joy is different to your joy. You went as far as you could go without realising, right, I have got to bounce back from this or I'm pooped. This is not the way I want to live my life. So in my opinion, when we go to, and we had great fun the other night, we did some boxing and we talked about the vagus nerve, and it was also relatable to me. If I didn't have any experience or history in this business as well, I would want to go back because it was very tailor-made to what happened to me on the night. I had an experience. We had great fun.
The universe brings it all in at the right
it was
time.
Perfect time, place and sequence, because I arrived, the prep queen, who normally I was going to carve out the full evening for myself there, and that's not how it went. Other things took me in different directions, but we had great fun. And it gave you your opportunity to give me that pre-therapy gain. Okay, you're not going to stay, Síle, but you just reminded me of the things that I know already.
Yeah.
And that's the humble part of this. And it's actually the most important part, because when you mentioned Joe Dispenza, he talks about remember your future.
Yeah.
It's the same biological process as remembering your past. Do you want to do what you always did? Fine, rock on if you do, but you're going to get what you always got.
Yeah.
If you remember your future, what you're doing is what you said. You have that electro contribution, which is your thought, and then the magnetic drawing it back into the field. So you're in the vibrational offering of somebody who has that thing.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you do it? But if you need to go to somebody like you to bridge the gap, why wouldn't you treat yourself? You get your hair done, you go on holidays, you go to, we said, spa breaks, delighted to see it. Take on a coach. Are you going to paint a room in your lovely, did you paint the rooms in your lovely new house?
I did not.
You did not, indeed.
Which is why they actually look half decent.
There you go. No more than I did myself. And yet, do you want it looking fabulous? Yes, you do. So you're going to take on the person and pay them happily the currency that you've earned doing what you do so well to do what they do so well. And that's what makes the world go round. None of us thinking we can do it on our own.
No.
We just can't. We need community and connection and help.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay to be okay. And if you can get yourself to that place on your own, brilliant. But in it being okay to be okay, it's actually also okay to say, Dan, can you give me a hand with this? Can I book in for a few sessions?
Yeah.
And the variety of what you offer, in my opinion, is one of the biggest advantages you have perhaps over some other facilities like this, because you're very focused on physical where it's needed.
Yeah.
And you'll bespoke that to any individual. But the mindset piece and the spiritual piece, where else are you going to get that?
It's everything though. Like, I think that's where I think we go wrong, in so many things we do. Like, we look, like, even when you think of, like, you arrive on a Sunday, right? It's Sunday and you're looking at the week ahead, and everything you're probably looking at week ahead, say, right, what am I going to make for dinner on this day? Right, have I the shopping in for that? Okay, where do I need to be on that? Okay, what do I need to get done on that? So you're thinking of all the physical things that need to be done. And you think, once I do all them things, it'll nourish and I'll be all right. But you never think of, okay, what do I need mentally for myself this week? Where do I need to fit that in? Or where do I need a sense of connection, a sense of fun, a sense of joy? And not just in the week. How can I find that in every single day? It's about bringing that in, because life is for living.
Yeah.
We're not here to survive and go through the motions. If you want to, God, it's going to be a bit of a boring roller coaster for you.
You'd end up sick. You'd end up with chronic ailment, because your body would be keeping score all the time. And even when we had our chat and we had good fun, so we brought, it all happened in a short space of time. We'd a laugh. We exchanged kind of theory and approach. And then very quickly we were up and at it. So you get that nitric oxide dump. Like, literally, even if you give yourself a high five, if you stand up from your seated position and give yourself a high five into the mirror, you've you've opened up your blood vessels. Okay, you could do more, but it's a start point. Some people get so stuck, and we just need that space in that place. And then I was looking at the time, your colleague took some footage of us doing our boxing.
Yeah.
Very funny. I'm like a 2-year-old child. I'm like a stretched toddler looking for the teacher's affirmation. Yeah, and you were changing my stance, and we were boxing that bag, and it's such good fun. But it's fabulous exercise. You're going to be building muscle.
Yeah.
You're also going to be very cathartically exhaling some of the toxins that are in your body.
Completely.
I don't like the idea of, I know years ago within the whole CBT space, there was punching pillows and screaming out windows. I would, my body type and my emotional type would be too gentle for that. That would bring me to a worse low, or a worse, I don't really do anger anyway. I would do low. Low is what I have to guard myself from. I would have had crippling anxiety as a youngster, like really, really bad. And I didn't realize until I experienced other very extreme adversity later in life that actually that was like my apprenticeship.
Yeah.
And I use it now to help me. It is literally that adversity, which was horrific. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. And a lot of things actually happened in my adult life. I then look back and I realize I now know why that was my DNA or why that was my young story. Everything is neutral. It's the story you attach to it. Because then I realized, God, I could stay in this story. And if I attach that story, it'll be credible. It will absolutely, cause sensation. It'll absolutely garner an audience. But I'm going to be sick. And I'm staying there. I'm revolving in the pain as opposed to evolving out of it.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing though, isn't it? Because sometimes like when you're in that state, like you mentioned, when you're there, and same for me in my own journey, it is very hard to motivate yourself to be different. But when you understand that, like, when you're living in that state, you're actively making your body a toxic place. Your immune system is now shutting down. Your digestive system is now gone. And you'll start to see these small little things, where it's like the skin you talked about a while ago, or whether it's headaches, or whether it's I keep getting the cold and flu. These things start to come up, and I think that's like, your health is everything. If you haven't got your health, none of us are going to be here sitting here or listening to this.
I know, and tell yourself that different story. I'm sure you see people all the time who say, "Oh, I get 3 colds a year now. This is the last one, so I'll be grand till January."
Try sell them a jacket, and it still doesn't work for them.
Honest to God, you have all the merch, but it's funny, isn't it? If you believe that, sure, that's what's going to happen. So if nothing else, when you arrive in your studio, you learn to tell yourself a different story, change the narrative, because if you believe, the storyboard in your brain, how do you get away from it?
And I think the big thing even with that is I used to be like that, but now trying to live in awareness, like, what's this teaching me? And it's when you get into them moments, and I think that's the biggest freedom, because like we talked about, this journey, like it's always going to be chop and change. And like I've so much I'm grateful for my life, but I still struggle every day. I still doubt myself every day. I still have different stuff every day. And I think you always will. Now, how much you live in that space and act upon that space is completely different. But the biggest thing that allows me to actually move from this space, before I be judging it and comparing to it and expecting things to be different, and I still get stuck into that days, because I'm a human being. I'm not perfect. I don't know all the answers. And if you met me probably over the last year or so, when we were building a house and getting married, I'd probably tell you different things on different days. But I think the big thing is, when stuff like that happens, whether it's a cold or flu or a challenge or adversity or whatever, it's ask, like, why is this happening to me, but why is this happening for me, and what is this trying to teach and show me in this moment? And when you see it from that eyes, there's no reaction now, like, there's no where you want to, it's like this stillness power, but it's power without anger or fear. It's a power that's peaceful, and allows you to be curious, and through that curiosity, it allows you to understand. That's
your superpower, curiosity. I love that. I absolutely love it. And, ventral vagal space, that place where we're pro-social, where our own face is nice and soft, and we've intonation in our voice. we're then ready for quality connection. But when the world is pulling us down, or our brain has slipped sideways, everything is difficult. Like even sitting on a busy train is difficult. I've had clients so many times, and on repeat, until we get that sweet spot where they can't bear to be in a crowded place. There would be somebody who previously could tip in and out doing their shopping, new social experiences, and this social anxiety absolutely envelops them. It's it's like a big heavy duffel coat. It's really difficult to get that off on a fine summer's day. But there's adverse childhood experience perhaps coming up, triggering for some reason, adverse adult experience, not feeling seen, heard and valued. And it's difficult to pare back because we wear masks. But if we can just come back to that, to the breath, come back to the breath. Something very actionable would be the physiological sigh, just breathing in and then another tiny little breath and then so slow exhale. It's just, and set the intention on the exhale. So we could talk forever and a day.
We better let James get home.
So as a parting word,
yes,
what would you say to somebody now who has listened to this and says, okay, this was really engaging. I think I'm going to ring that chap now and get myself a session. And presumably they do, which is great. For the long haul though, you mentioned immune span, like lifespan and health span and immune span are totally different things. We need the biopsychosocial model. We can't go to Dan every single day. Even when we're going to Dan, we'll go for a period of time. And then we have to kind of transition back into real life, take the skills. What are the actionable skills? What can we do on a daily basis, cost-free? The protocols that we have in our pocket. And that maybe after listening to this, we realize, you know what? I'm going to pull those out and use them. What are they?
I think the everyday tools and the simple things that are free, I think the first one is your breath. It's your breathing. Your breathing is always the signal and sign of where your nervous system is actually at, and your nervous system is a sign of where your life is at. I think breathing is the most simple and basic thing, and you spoke about it earlier, where it's the simple sigh, but just consciously even being aware of how my breathing throughout the day is massive. I think that's the fundamental most important thing. I think that's the first part. I think the second part is your energy. Just becoming really curious about where is my energy at right now, because your energy is always it's the most innate wisdom that you have on, because at times you're thinking, is this good for me, or do I like this, or how am I, and your energy will always communicate that, like your feelings are there not to direct you, they're there to inform you. And that's connected back to your energy. So just become really curious about your energy. I think that leads to the next thing, which is also free, which is your self-talk. Become so aware about the words that you use, because the words that you use ultimately become your whole sense of self. And your whole sense of self is how you live, think, feel, and make decisions on all the time, especially when you're under pressure.
Yes.
So I think that's a huge thing, and something simple in that is, like for me, it's every single morning just waking up, checking my breathing, checking my energy. How do I feel this morning? And then making decisions based off that. Like today, we got back from the book launch late last night, so I didn't get a great night's sleep. I wasn't that energized. Kind of did not great food, but I really enjoyed myself last night. But I felt a little bit tired this morning. I said, you know what? I'm actually not going to push myself and go to the gym today. I'm just going to go for a swim instead. And luckily I could do that at that time, but it's becoming curious with that, and then that's leading to the words that you use. I think that's genuinely the most fundamental important thing. Like me and Granny always try to catch each other out every time, say, oh, what did you say there? You got me again, because you have so much going on throughout
Isn't
the day.
it lovely to have an accountability partner who thinks like you, somebody who's...
At times it is, right?
No, it is, it's great.
It's great when they tell you what you want to hear, not what you need to hear.
No, it's love is the answer for sure. That quality connection grows us. And Granny is a teacher, so I suppose as I'm listening to you there, I'm thinking be your own SNA. We all have our special needs assistants. So sleep, nutrition and activity. If we can... Quality sleep, you're so right. My mental health would be in the toilet if I didn't have when I don't have, because we won't all have. I would like to consider myself a bit of a sleep expert in terms of the theory, and I work a lot with people to help them to improve their sleep and children to improve their sleep. But we're human beings, as you say, so we won't always get the required 7 hours. Sometimes we'll get, well, I would never get more, but people can sleep for more, and that's equally as injurious as sleeping less. Who knew? Like, who knew? You know, and in your teens, it's a different thing. There's a big growth spurt going on. But in the overview of life, quality, quantity, regularity, and time, I think is it Matt Walker that recommends that?
Yeah, you're right,
the stamp of approval for that. The quality being how you feel the next day. As you said, I didn't feel so great today. The quantity, roughly how much did I get? If it's too much less than 7, I don't think, and they're only benchmarks, I don't think it's ideal. If it's too much more than 7, it's equally not ideal. Regularity, do I get to bed roughly the same time every night? And do I rise, this is the most important one, roughly the same time every day? That's quite a clincher, because it might be relatively easy to go to bed roughly the same time. Now, weekends aside, but let's try. We could probably try that one. But to get up roughly the same time, that's a bit of it's an investment. And the time thing, you might think the time thing is quite like the regularity, but it's not. It's your chronotype. Am I going to bed with my regularity that I'm working on roughly the same time and rising roughly the same time, as is in alignment with my chronotype? So some people go to bed later naturally. Some people go to bed earlier naturally, well, left to their own devices. And if there's much of a gap between your chronotype and this regularity practice that you're killing yourself to build in, you'll equally feel a bit disjointed and out of kilter the next day. So those actionables are so important. I love what you said about I let myself off the hook. I'd normally do this. Today wasn't the day for that. Today. I think that's equally important.
It's everything. Yeah. That's non-judgment, like a non-comparison, a non-attachment.
Yeah.
I'm not judging. I'm not comparing. Oh, well, you were here yesterday. You should be like this today. And then I'm not attached, but you had this today. You were going to say you're going to do that. And then, do you know?
I know.
Just fucking let it go.
And also kind of that happiness piece, you changed your expectation.
Yeah.
So your reality is, well, I normally do this. My expectation would be to rise to that, particularly if I've been a bit naughty the previous day. But the gap, the distance between reality and expectation is where your happiness is or isn't. So if you can't change it because today's the day and you're coming to see Síle in Dublin anyway, and you've had the later night last night anyway, just lower the expectation. It makes the gap smaller and less likely that you won't feel happy about yourself. You don't disappoint yourself. The illusion doesn't get to, you know.
Noise.
Yeah, the noise. Turn down the noise.
Yeah.
Listen, on that note, I could talk to you forever, but on that note, we're going to help people to turn down the noise, hopefully, when they listen to this and when they check in with you and take the help that they can. I mean, thank you for your vulnerability.
Not at all. Thank you for having me. It's been a great conversation and great to connect with you in person.
Yeah. Oh, I'll be back. I will definitely be back. I had to leave earlier than I planned. I will be back. Definitely. I need to do more of that. Honestly, when I saw my own face,
just light up.
The excitement when I saw the little piece of footage, you know, and I'm watching you intently to make sure I get it right for you. I encourage everybody to go there and do that. Have the chat first and then do that. It was such an experience. I'll definitely be back. My big takeaway is, I think, that voice and probably vibration and regulation, they're not just topics. They're like portals for learning, and we need to check in with that. And check in with our vagal tone. Dan, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Gur míle mágat.
Oh, gur mágat thin le bhí sarta hasli. And there you have it. A rich, embodied conversation with Dan Glynn, where the personal, the neural, and the relational collided with purpose. This wasn't just a conversation. It was a portal indeed. We revisited that pivotal moment in his own life at the age of 24, literally a collapse as a result of stress, anxiety, and a general internal dissonance. From that rupture, he began the work to build wholeness from within for himself and subsequently to build his business, training not just bodies, but nervous systems, holding the voice not just as sound, but as signal, and reclaiming resonance with the authentic self. It's so important to be aware of neuroception, that unconscious scan for a sense of safety or threat. The body reading the world so the brain doesn't have to. When we have ventral vagal tone, we're able for, up for and enjoy in social engagement. It's a state of regulation. Voice is intonated as opposed to flat. Face is full of expression, and there's potential for and engagement in quality connection. On the other hand, dorsal vagal shutdown is that shadowed state when overwhelm collapses us. We now understand that reciprocity is not just exchange, but it's energetic sovereignty. It's the giving and receiving and the holding space. Dan's teaching is about being able to show up for yourself in those moments that matter. It's about turning inward, listening to your body's language, and allowing your presence to be the ground and the grounding, in fact, from which your voice emerges. Even before words land, our bodies are already communicating. So here's your assignment for this week. Once a day at least, more often if you can, whether you're in a meeting, in a conversation, but particularly if you feel small tensions arising for whatever reason, pause briefly. Breathe. Feel for your vagal state. What's your tone of voice like? Is your face soft? Are your shoulders relaxed or braced? Listen beneath the word before you speak it, and then let your voice come. Calibrated, anchored, resonant. Let your exhale set the intention, and let your tone match you, not mask you. If you feel yourself shrinking on a crowded train, for example, in a difficult conversation, or literally just facing your day, that's not a weakness. That's your nervous system trying to protect you. The racing heart, the urge to disappear, the shutdown, they're all part of our body's ancient language. But when you notice it, even briefly, and return to breath, you're already doing the work. That's presence, and it becomes your anchor. It's your power in a world that often pulls us out of ourselves. So this week, for anyone anywhere who's ever felt themselves wanting to vanish from a room or fold inward in a moment of panic, for anyone who's held their breath in a busy space, whose body temperature was rising when they didn't want it to, maybe reached for a drink or other numbing substances, these few words are for you. Dragon in the Mirror is inspired by the brilliant Nikki Hayes, and I'm dedicating it today to everyone who's finding their way back to vagal tone, to functional breath, to that soft flex of the vagus. Dragon in the Mirror. Musings by Síle Judith Father. There are collapses so public, they echo in headlines. But the loudest crash of all is the one that happens in the silence of your own mind. It begins not with the bottle, not the panic, not the arrest, but in the dark, where all roots begin. A girl, eyes too wide for what they had to see, tiny hands taught early that love might vanish or return loud and out of control. Now there are names for this: adverse childhoods, adult echoes, and nervous systems scrolling history in the ink of survival. Still, she carried on. Voice on air, face in flashbulbs, brave beyond the frame. But the weight beneath didn't quiet, it quickened. The old escape routes never far. Each thought a corridor back to the comforting ache, to the lie that numbs. How many more day ones must we survive before we choose to truly arrive? Recovery isn't absence from, it's presence in. The slow, strange art of falling in love with staying. Fall from grace? No soft landing? Just sharp headlines at the brutal expense of family, friends, career, health, and home, a self she had already actually outgrown. If only she'd known. Let the world chase spectacle. She's present today to power in practice, peace in presence, and that's holy. Learn to notice when your mind slips sideways. Learn to pause, to watch, even for a heartbeat. Helicopter view. Nanosecond grace, that's all it takes. New ways are hard to grow in soil you didn't choose. Turn the ground anyway. Mud, mess, movement. In time she understood it's not enough to strip away the poison. We must plant something better in its place. Not redemption. Return to the self you almost forgot, to the person who needs no spotlight to prove her worth. Scene 1 was survival. Scene 2, sovereignty. You are not lost. You're in motion. The runway is long, but the wind beneath you, your own. And there is shame that grows in the ribcage, not for what was lost, but for who got hurt while you were hurting. If forgiveness feels too far, too weighty, like you haven't earned it or don't deserve it, climb straight to compassion. It meets you where you are. Out with the old, in with the new, so the soil softens and something wholesome can grow. Pay attention in this crucial but potentially dangerous pause. Enter PAWS. Perhaps post-acute withdrawal, the body's last tremor before transcendence, or relapse. So let it teach, let it pass, let it go. Achtung, baby. Forgiveness can be a trigger in disguise, an old loop, a performance, a guilt-laced script you never agreed to. Try compassion instead. It demands less and offers more. It softens the mirror. No dragon. Self-care. And so it is.